Welcome to our guests. Mr. Tanya, would you like to address the audience?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one guest today. Usually, for the past at least 3 years, we've had in attendance Mark Luca and often Greg Carey. Usually, always Greg Carey and occasionally Mark Luca, but neither of them are here today, even though the meeting was publicly advertised. But it's my pleasure to point out to you that in the audience today is Blair Fleischman. She is an activist in Chester County, community member, organizer. She's been with Chester Water and supported it in its struggle from day one. So I asked the board to recognize her when the time comes and invite her to provide public comment.
So, Councilor, could we expect more favorable comments coming from the audience today?
I'm doing my best to solicit that. We'll see how my efforts pan out.
Thank you. We're up to public comment. Does anyone care?
This is before the agenda or after?
This is the one where we're discussing anything on the agenda.
I can wait till after. Whichever.
It's your call.
Okay. And maybe I'll have more to say after.
And that's okay too.
I've just been following the activities of the Chester Water Authority, and I want to applaud your vigilance and your outreach to the public to keep them informed of what's going on. I try to watch for your board meetings to know what's going on, as well as articles that I might read. I see the relationship of the public sewer with the public water and how important both are to infrastructure for the future of the whole region that is served by all of the infrastructure. And there's none other like the Chester Water Authority, so thank you for all that you're doing, and I'm very proud of our Chester County Commissioners for reappointing and appointing the representatives of the sewer, or the Chester Water Authority, sorry, back in the sewer, for their knowledge and keeping that continuity going forward. It's really important for the future of this board and the constituents and the ratepayers. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Moving along, Mr. Solicitor, would you address the executive sessions and any action items from the executive session?
Madam Chair, since the last board meeting, we've had two executive sessions, one on October 26th and one on October 27th. Same topics were covered at both that meeting. The 27th was held prior to it today. The 26th meeting was held telephonically. We discussed the Supreme Court case. The oral argument is scheduled for November 30th. And we also discussed items 8A and 8B on the agenda. And I provided legal advice to the board on those two items at both the meetings. There are no action items from the executive session other than items 8A and B and C and D, all of which are listed under the executive manager's report. For my report, item number 6 or 7, I would report that we've been receiving numerous complaints from aqua customers in the New Garden Township area. New Garden Township is unique in that it was the first Act 12 purchase of a wastewater system by a private water company. It was the first purchase under Act 12. I think it took about 4 or 5 years to a close, but it finally closed. The first round of bills have gone out since that time, and since Aqua's wastewater rates were approved. The complaints from the customers are about the substantial increase in wastewater fees, and there's some suggestion on their part when they call to speak with Chester Water representatives that information that is being given to customers is that is the Chester Water Authority that submits the data upon which the aqua sewer people rely to send out their bills. That's partially true, but we're not responsible for their rates. The sewer rates are based upon water consumption. There are issues about that. The theoretical underpinning of that kind of billing is that water comes into the house, all comes out of the house. We know that's not true, for instance, for people that water their lawns, have big gardens, they wash their car, golf courses, for instance, most of the water goes right into the greens. So there's a lot of conversation there. We've used our policies as a guidance, and we're trying to talk to the residents in New Garden to show them the information that we're sharing with Aqua, upon which their buildings are based. So we're trying to let them know how these rates are being calculated and give them a better understanding of how the bills are being presented to them, because they're consistently complaining about not getting a satisfactory explanation from the Aqua wastewater folks. But the reality is the wastewater rates that they were used to paying are much higher. They were formerly New Garden Township customers, now they're Aqua customers, and the rates are simply higher, and they've been blessed by the PUC. And that's all for my report, but I would appreciate the opportunity to comment on item 8A and 8B.
Thank you. We'll move to the executive manager's report, and we will discuss or deal with each item separately. 8A is before you. Authorization for the membership in the U.S. Water Alliance and One Water Program. Mr. Katana, you said you'd like to address that before we take a motion?
So item 8A would authorize the authority to enter as a member of the U.S. Water Alliance as a One Water program. The One Water program is a sort of a philosophical way to approach a sustainability issue, and that is to encourage drinking water producing entities, wastewater processing entities, and stormwater entities to work together to form joint ventures to try to share costs and expenses, to try to minimize the amount of energy that is used in producing and treating water, and to work together to develop more sustainability practices. The efficiency and effectiveness of water treatment and production and consumption is the goal of the One Water program. And basically it's an information sharing opportunity for the Chester Water Authority. With this authorization, Mrs. Webkenberg and I will work with the U.S. Water Alliance, but we wouldn't actually enter into membership until the point at which we needed access to those resources.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve item 8A?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments relative to this? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please? Mr. D'Agostino.
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Weitzel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. You have in front of you item 8B.
Madam Chair, one of the opportunities of, or there are many opportunities to engage in one water-based solutions to the production of drinking water and treatment of wastewater and collection and management of a stormwater. And because of the number of possibilities available to the Chester Water Authority to work with others, agenda item 8B is broad-based in its language. It would authorize the appropriate Chester Water Authority officials and professionals to take any action necessary to allow CWA's participation in One Water ventures. They would have to be based in the CWA service area, and this would be subject to the appropriate legal review as to the form and content of any proposed transactions and/or actions, and subject to any necessary legal or regulatory approvals. What this basically does is allows the staff and the professionals to conduct negotiations and package a transaction and present it to the board for further consideration in this One Water program area. But without this authorization, we can't really get started in it. So this will allow that to happen. It would allow us to help people develop claims that they have to assets. It would allow us to help people do construction of opportunities, to do renovation of existing systems. You know, it's very, very broad-based to allow us to bring it to a point where we can bring it back to the board and say, we think this is a good opportunity, let's move forward with it. So, if there are any questions on 8B, I would be happy to answer them. I work with Mr. Krupiak to develop this, as well as the rest of the authority staff.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, to approve 8B? Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other questions?
Just a question for clarity. When you say officials, professionals, who are you referring to?
So it could be engineers, it could be financial consultants, it could be lawyers. But I'm trying to make the language broad enough so that we can develop and get all of the components back. So when we come before you, the answer, the questions that we ask are more yes/no questions rather than, you know, go find this out for us or go find that out for us. We want to bring the finished product to you before you vote to authorize us to go forward with to have all the plans developed and to get you to consider the possibility of going forward with it or not going forward with it.
Okay, so the officials is who? The officials is the board?
The president, the vice president, the management team here, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Here, we have a motion. I believe we have a motion on the floor. And I believe we have a...
Yeah, okay.
We have a second. All right. Mike, will you please give us a roll call vote, please, on this?
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel.
I abstain from item 8B to the extent that it could involve a nonprofit entity, a for-profit entity, a government or government entity for which my firm has performed or is performing accounting or auditing services. For the balance of 8B, I vote yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8C in front of you is the authorization to terminate the month-to-month lease of the office space located in Kennett Borough, PA. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just a question. Termination to begin when?
I'm thinking it's 30 days prior notice, so if you vote yes on that, we'll give notice, and the termination notice will go out before November 1st, will be effective December 1st.
Any other questions?
Would that be by the end of the year?
I think the lease would be up December 1st. I don't know what the move out is, but I suspect that the idea would be to terminate the old lease by December 1st and get out by then and go into the new place by December 1st.
Just a question, can we actually move out within that time frame?
That's not a legal question.
I'm sorry?
That's not a legal question.
It's not legal.
I'm going to pass on that one. I'll have to just move my own office, and anything's possible, but at sometimes great cost, so.
Any other questions? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item D is the authorization to enter into the new lease located in East Marlborough Township at $23 per square foot. The mutually agreed upon outfitting costs and reviewed by the solicitor as to form of contract. May I have a motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Brandon.
Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis West.
Yes.
Mr. McGinn.
Yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Leitzel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 9, we have new business. We are recognizing the Chester County action regarding our board appointments. Congratulations to Mr. Brandon and Mr. Rivera for another 5-year term. We're pleased that we appreciate all your efforts. So, congratulations and good luck. We look forward to possibly meeting this guy.
Hope to work with this board for a lot more years to come.
Thank you. Is there any old business by the board? Any new business? Other than what we just talked about? Now we have public comment again. You can talk about anything, please.
I'll just add that my parents are residents of Penn Township, and so on their behalf, I also thank you for your efforts. So thanks.
Thank you very much. That concludes our business for today, unless the board has other comments, questions. Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Yeah.